And today we have a very special guest, Ms. Hadil AlKatib. She's not only a certified gut health coach, but she's also the founder of the cult wellness brands, the Broth Lab and Catcha Matcha.
You know, when I started 10 years ago in the entrepreneur space, having gone out of corporate, it was not only so competitive, but there was not much room for collaborations. And that sense of really not belonging, but also fierce competition led me to only emphasize more to help and support women-led businesses, but also to be part of the collective. Health is backwards. And hear me out. Health is backwards because if you think about how health is progressing, the slow simmered, the fermentation, the mindful eating, the slowing down, these are all practices that what we call our titas or our grandmothers used to obviously call for. How to nourish our bodies was always missing. And I wanted to fill that gap in the market. By filling that gap in the market, I created the Roost, the Broth Lab, and later on Catcha Matcha.
Welcome to the Wellness Club Social, Dubai's newest space for real conversations about clean living and modern wellness. I'm Christina, the founder of Soul Crave.
And I'm Biljana, founder of Clean Rebel. And today we have a very special guest, Ms. Hadil AlKatib. She's not only a certified gut health coach, but she's also the founder of the cult wellness brands, the Broth Lab and Catcha Matcha. After experiencing a deep postpartum health crisis, Hadil redirected her energy from being an HR leader in the corporate world to using tools like traditional superfoods like her 15-hour slow-simmered broth or her uji matcha in order to transform people's life and make them heal from the inside out. Hadil now uses both her coaching practice and her food concepts in order to empower women, mothers, and entire communities to take their health into their own hands. We'll be diving deep into gut health secrets, the power of ancestral foods, and how to build a sustainable wellness lifestyle. I personally met Hadil right before my wedding. I was looking for a great nutritionist, basically to whip me into shape before the wedding. So it was a very critical time for me. And I was so impressed not only by her knowledge and her professional, skills, but by her personally, because she's one of the most generous, supportive people I've ever met in my life. She's really a woman who helps other women. She's really an entrepreneur that supports other entrepreneurs. And to me, she's a symbol for abundance and for generosity and support. So we're really, really honored to have you. Welcome to the show, Hadil.
What a beautiful introduction, Biljana. You have no idea how I'm a fan of yourself as well. Obviously, I'm a hardcore Clean Rebel fan, but also I genuinely appreciate you and your friendship, and I'm so happy to be here today.
Thank you, Hadil. That means a lot.
Thank you for having me, both of you.
Our pleasure.
Obviously, a big fan of Soul Crave. And I'm so happy.
You are on Soul Crave.
Yes, and I'm so happy I'm there. But genuinely, this is exactly the ethos. You know, when I started 10 years ago in the entrepreneur space, having gone out of corporate, it was not only so competitive, but there was not much room for collaborations. You know, a decade ago, it was run, how much I can take into my pie, there's no sharing, and why are you talking to me? You might be my competition at some point. And that sense of really not belonging, but also fierce competition led me to only emphasize more to help and support women-led businesses, but also to be part of the collective. You can't grow alone, and it's only natural for us as humans to seek variety. So really, there's no competition. It's an innate sort of sensation to always want to explore and try different platforms or different product before you know if it's the real deal or whether you want to be loyal and commit to one. So I'm so happy that things have changed from a decade ago, and we're seeing so many amazing women-led businesses. And I'm so happy to be part of that. I found my tribe.
That's amazing that you say that, because you really come not from a place of scarcity, but from a place of abundance. And it shows just in everything that you do. So it's very clear to the community, I think. It's very clear in terms of your food concepts, your businesses, that you're coming from that place because you want to change something, you want to do good.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope we can continue
of course.
Yeah.
I think it's very important because even the way we onboard brands on the platform, of course, it has to be a good product and good quality, whatever they have, you know, the culture of the brand, everything needs to be different, but also the person behind it. It's very important because if a person is, you know, greedy in the way they do business and they're like kind of don't want to share something, or they just respect a different corporate culture.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for me to work with them because I feel like in the wellness space, it's really supportive generally.
100%.
And then they stand out a
Yeah.
lot because
Yeah.
actually, I've barely faced cases like that. Everyone who is on the platform, everyone is always supporting each other. And men, women, everyone is always, you know, coming to each other's events. Everyone is always like ready to repost, ready to support. And it's amazing. It's actually incredible. I've never worked in a wellness market anywhere else in the world, but I do think it's very impressive that UAE and you know it's still a fast growing in a new market, let's say, but it's really impressive how everyone is so amazing. And yeah, thank you guys for being so amazing.
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 Let's hold hands and cheer for us up. But no, it's so important as well that you mentioned this because yes, Dubai is excelling in the wellness and health space, but it also is growing aggressively. And this is where we need to determine what really sticks and stands out and what's the real deal and what is just a lot of fluff or another franchise name or just not suitable, worked in Australia and other parts of the world, let's say, but is not really applicable to our culture, to our DNA here, and might not really work for us as residents or expats or even locals in the UAE. So it's so important to understand that. I've heard so many amazing gurus who have come here, whether they've set the ground or are just here coming and vouching for wellness, you know, practices, tips, hacks, biohacks. But, you know, there are other gurus who have been here all their lives and they know best what really works for the region. They've lived it, their genes adapted. And who are we to just mimic what works for those who just flew in, who are telling us we should sleep or eat or do a certain way for us to flourish in our culture or in this part of the world. So I think it's so important to go beyond just the name and exactly what you said, spot on, to understand the person behind the brand and what they're really trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. But also your journey, because when Biljana walked in and I was like, okay, I have a lot of questions because I can so relate to what you've been through after the postpartum. I've been having so many difficulties. It's almost been a year and I've been having so many difficulties with my gut health. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's not much out there actually explaining you what to do because people are trying to sell you expensive, you know, supplements or whatever, or skincare, which actually doesn't even solve the problem. But, you know, there's people create their answers based on what they want to sell.
Yeah.
And that's the struggle. And a lot of people are not going to go and educate themselves because it's time consuming. Some people don't have time, especially mothers. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't have a day to just go on and read and dive into research. And all the exposure to social media and internet gives you a lot of you know, wrong facts or just someone who's speaking about something without a degree or proper knowledge. So it would be so interesting to listen to your story and how you know, made that switch to the wellness market and created this amazing company.
I love that you started with your own personal struggle because I think each and every one of us is either fighting a fight, you know, someone else doesn't know, but also it is impossible to have a vibrant, healthy life without backing it with knowledge, right? So when I got out of the corporate world, I became a mother to Tamara, who's almost 12 now. I can't believe it. She was 18 months back then. So I was freshly postpartum, few months after having her, but I was still in the corporate world and was leading the human resources in the energy sector, a very demanding and booming sector at the time because Masdar, I was just started initiating the solar energy, Mubadala was booming, taking on mega project. So the sector, whether it was the energy sector, water, electricity, wastewater at the time, was really at its peak. And it was an exciting time for me. I was really growing. I was obviously at the right time, but I was also the right person at the right age where I can,
Go.
excel and go without my body slowing me down, if you know what I mean. In your 20s, you know how we all were in our 20s.
How do you mean I'm still there?
Me too.
About yourself.
I don't know. That's not like 2 decades ago. But what I'm trying to say is that we're all in a different chapters of our life. And right now, you're wise enough to know what's going on with your body and you're intuitive and you know what's going on. For the longest time, a lot of women had no idea. And were silencing and numbing their body with painkillers or with quick fixes, like you mentioned, whether it's external through creams or internal with, numbing the pain or numbing the symptoms because they didn't have that luxury of slowing down, of just saying, what's going on with my body. And that was my story. So when I had my first child, I had to slow down for her sake, but also slowing down made me more intuitive and sort of made those voices inside my body louder. I was able to hear and understand that I was not okay. I would wake up fatigued. I would sleep the usual number of hours, like let's say 7, 8 hours. And I would wake up like I barely had any sleep, deep sleep. I would never go into my REM. That's how it felt. And I would wake up fatigued, I would wake up tired. I had all different sort of symptoms, whether it's gut health, whether it was mentally, I would feel anxious, aggravated, moody, for no particular reason. And I would make sure that I'm eating well, but no matter what I ate, I would always feel bloated or tired, or like I'm always either hungry or I have zero appetite. Like I could be all day eating nothing, or I could be eating something small and feel like I'm pregnant again. It felt, those symptoms were weird. And I obviously didn't want to go to Dr. Google to Google because at the time there wasn't ChatGPT.
I know.
Right?
Gosh.
So I didn't want to go and just Google my symptoms because the next thing you know, you're either having colon cancer.
Yeah. Always.
Or you're going to, die tomorrow, or it's just nothing.
Yeah.
And you obviously know it's not nothing, or else you wouldn't be on the internet trying to figure out what's wrong with you. And that's when the shift happened, the mindset that if I'm going to all these doctors and they have no answer, and again, conventional doctors, Western doctors, who would do my complete blood work, who will do my hormone spectrum, and they couldn't really pinpoint what was going on. They would say, actually, you're
fine.
You're absolutely fine. They look great. You're actually book perfect. I used to hate that phrase, you're actually book perfect. How am I book perfect when I'm feeling like I'm not myself? But all those testings are great, preliminary testing, just to make sure that there isn't any depletion or anything wrong that you couldn't tackle instantly. But to dig deeper wasn't something that they felt incentivized to do. They would just steer me away. They'd send me off and say, look, just sleep better, look after each other.
And
motherhood,
don't stress.
Motherhood is overwhelming as it is. And, you have a job and, just try to de-stress one way or another. But we all know no amount of massages or, self-care that we define as self-care can really take those symptoms away. You really need to dig deeper. And that's where I wanted to empower myself. I enrolled myself in a nutrition school. I did 3 years of understanding really what the core is, nutrition. And after graduating, I wanted to do further courses on microbiome and hormonal health, but I also wanted to understand through the practitioner, amazing practitioner, unconventional, holistic, functional wellness doctors here in the region, what they have to say. Because if I ace the nutrition part, and I'm doing great, and I'm the guinea pig that I am for myself, because I did it for selfish reasons, I'm not gonna lie. I did it because I wanted to improve my health, and I wanted to get to the core of what was really getting inside my gut. But I also wanted the holistic approach, and I don't have the knowledge when it comes to the full holistic approach. I needed the other practitioners, but not any practitioners. That's where the other research went into. Really knowing the likes of Dr. Maria that you have hosted here, the likes of Dr. Ludmila Holistic Medical Center, and the likes of these amazing gurus who are phenomenal and have wealth of knowledge, but also who understand how to read the body beyond the numbers. I just needed someone to take my hand and tell me, you're actually not crazy. There is something wrong going on and we can fix it. Because what are you without hope? We're nothing without hope. Hope that tomorrow we're going to wake up and do what we love. Hope that, we have our loved ones around us. Hope that we have health. Probably tomorrow there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I didn't have that for so many years. It was devastating. So to be able to have also those experts in their field telling me there is hope, that was all I needed to be on the right track. But it took a long time. And that's why I made it a point that whatever I learned, I made a promise that I will always share. So even when I opened my public account, Heal with Hadil, was always about sharing whatever I know. And I would always put in the caption a disclaimer, and my friends would laugh.
I'm not a doctor.
Yes. Why are you writing a disclaimer? You're professional. You're enough. You've got all the credentials you were mentioning. And I would say because I worry that they would assume that it's a quick fix. It took me years with a full holistic approach to really get where I am. And whatever I'm vouching for is one part. It's not the full picture. And for there, after graduating, and obviously I quit my corporate job, I started understanding the fundamentals. And they all basically pointed me towards the ancestral superfoods, the way my ancestors, which are probably different than your ancestors, and your ancestors used to eat, and how it fed their DNA and how it nourished them at a cellular level. And that got me so excited. It got me so excited because nobody ever connected food to what I was going through. Because again, I would tell them what I would eat and they would say, excellent. You have berries and you have avocado and you eat oats and you have, enough protein. Thumbs up. And, it was far away from the truth because whatever I assumed or they assumed was healthy was probably not the right foods for me. And again, we all know nutrition is not part of the curriculum of any medical school. We know the fault there. So it's, again, not the doctor's fault. They know what they know and they have our best interest in mind. But it doesn't always come across as something that will move the needle. And I started applying all that knowledge from nutrition school and understanding what it really takes to heal your body, what makes you weaker, why oats might not work for me but work well with you, why animal products could nourish me but not necessarily for you, because there is the gut-brain axis as well, and how you feel towards a certain food category could really impact how you digest it. And then if you don't assimilate it well, you're really not getting that nourishment. So it was exciting. It was exciting to finally have answers. And I was the guinea pig that I was, and I applied everything on myself. And from there, I was like, the whole world has to know. So my friends and family would call me up and they will say, oh, Auntie So is sick, or my grandfather is sick. And I would say, hold on a second. I'm going to do a pot of bone broth and send it over. And I would cook it with so much love, but also with manifestation for someone to get better, because I think that's so important. And I would send it over and they would say, they felt so good. Thank you. They've been nauseated, not feeling well, not eating. And I felt that they were getting their energy. They were smiling again. And I was like, food is medicine. But I also understood that they're still doing therapy. They still have to take the protocol they're following. But that part was always missing. How to nourish our bodies was always missing. And I wanted to fill that gap in the market. By filling that gap in the market, I created the Roost, the Broth Lab, and later on Catcha Matcha.
That's the approach that, of course, is... a lot of wellness brand owners have that approach because they obviously struggled with something first, and then they want to help people. I think that's why the community is very different and very supportive, because they were trying to solve something that's super personal to them. And when it is super personal to you, you do it really well. And that's why you create an amazing product. I mean, I started with your... it's a very funny thing. I was in a retreat in Sri Lanka it was 2 weeks ago, and this girl said, and I was eating soup, and she was like, why do you Russians always eat soups? I'm like, I don't know. And this is the
Borscht,
I mean, this is one of them. But we
Yes.
always, I mean, maybe it comes, it was cold, whatever you found, you kind of put it in the soup, and then it could be anything from the, as you said, going back to the basis and whatever our parents and grandparents
Your
ate.
DNA, yeah.
But it's funny because and I was like, oh yeah, it is true. And when I started with broths, I mean, in our culture, this is a remedy. Like it's very, very kind of common. Broths are, your grandma always tells you, oh, you have to, I'm going to make some broth to make you feel better. So, sort of, especially if you have a stomachache or for children or whatever. So I already knew it was a really good thing. And when I came here, I was like, okay, is it a clean one? Is it whatever? And I started researching.
Yes.
And then obviously I tried it many times. And of course, for me, the main thing was when I got pregnant, because, you can't eat this, you can't do this. And that was amazing because I was like, I tried pretty much the whole selection, and I was like, oh, I love to cook with it. It's such a cheat code for cooking.
100%.
You guys,
Flavor.
apart from, yes, because you cannot, you need to spend 15 hours in the kitchen, and then you just, it's ready to go, and any soup tastes better.
Yes.
So it's also that, being a bit, but it was an incredible product. And then now I give it to my baby. I could cook food for my baby, and for her it's a huge difference because again, the flavor that the broth has. So I think you really did an amazing product, and I'm super grateful just as a consumer that you created this. And it's a very simple thing, you think, but it is really hard to cook.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking about it with Borna the other day. I was like, you know what? I just don't have the time. So it really saves me in this way, because it's an extremely important, food for us to consume. And it actually does make a drastic difference, but it saves us time.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I was going to ask you what actually makes the Broth Lab different, because, as Christina was saying, it is actually, to make it right, it's a long process. It's not easy as in, cooking some chicken or something like that. Tell us please about the process and what makes the difference in quality in your product versus, let's say, a powdered product or something else that's out there.
Excellent question. I get that asked all the time. But first of all, I'm going to break it down to whoever is listening or seeing or watching. Health is backwards. And hear me out. Health is backwards because if you think about how health is progressing, the slow simmered, the fermentation, the mindful eating, the slowing down, these are all practices that what we call their titas or our grandmothers used to obviously call for or lived. And this is why our ancestors knew better. They were wiser. But they also understood that all parts of the animals can be consumed. This animal sacrificed their lives not to give you a piece of steak, not to give you a few lamb chops, It gave you its life from its skin to its bones, from its head to its toe. That's so important to honor the animal that sacrificed its life and to consume it in a sustainable way, but also to understand how much you could use and its quality over quantity. And that's where the bone broth remedy comes in. So when you consume the bones, you roast it. So I believe in brown broth, okay? So you actually roast the bones to extract the majority of the minerals. So the extraction and the use of vinegar with mother, so a good quality vinegar as well, is potent to be able to extract all the different amino acids, minerals, electrolytes that are in abundance in bone broth naturally. And that's what makes it the elixir gold, the healing remedy I was talking about. And why it's so hard to make is because it takes a long time for these minerals, electrolytes, and amino acids to be extracted. So even with let's say the procedure to make bone broth right, it's the long, traditional, ancestral simmering hours that make it potent, that extract all the gelatin, that makes the collagen, which is one part, and then the minerals, which is the sulfur, magnesium, manganese, and all the phosphorus, all the things that our fertile soils are no longer, able to get because they're not fertile, really. So all this depletion that we're seeing in today's world is mineral depletion, not vitamin. I mean, thanks to the likes of Symbiotica and all the liposomal vitamin, supplements, we're able to get all these nutrients back in, but we'll never be able to get minerals outside except from food, from soils, From bone broth. They're as simple as that. There's only a few handful of things that are mineral rich. So the other part, besides the 15-hour long traditional simmering process that it takes and the long, tedious way, the quality. The quality really matters, because if you don't get them certified hormone and antibiotic free, mainly, and not necessarily organic, and I'll explain the difference, because a lot of countries, unfortunately in the EU, allows growth hormones in organic produce. Can you believe it? So the animal could be eating organic feed, and they would still certify it as organic, but they will allow certain amounts of hormones to grow the animal.
Wow.
And
They write it at the back.
and they would write it at the
didn't know
back
that.
in
They
small
say,
print.
it's like if one animal is sick, we're allowed to help
Exactly.
the herd.
Which, of course, there always will be one
Yes,
sick animal
Of
in
course,
the herd.
because
That's
just
fine.
like humans get sick,
Exactly,
animals
yeah.
get sick. It's normal. So, and this is why it's important to differentiate beyond the marketing fluff. No added hormones, organic, all these stamps are great, but you really need to understand if they're not certified free of any hormones, free of antibiotics, you're probably taking all these heavy metals through the simmering process, even multiplied, and then consuming it because the quality of the bones have been poor. So high quality is so important after the simmering. And I'm ordering it this way because that's how we understand how bone broth is supposed to be for its healing benefits. Or else it's just watered down stock.
Yes.
You might as well just have
Yeah.
watered down stock. After that, what you add to the bone broth. So if there's herbs, which is so medicinal, and we all know oregano, thyme, star anise, all these amazing, the za'atar, all these amazing things that we've, obviously from the region, from the Mediterranean, that we include to not just add flavor, which I obviously love the broth lab for its flavor because it's like tea, doesn't taste like bone broth, but also for its potent ability to increase the medicinal property of that elixir. So we're talking about all these herbs, but it's so important to include them fresh. So important not to have them in dried form because you're depleting all that. It's basically, if you're adding them dried, it's still great. You still get some benefit. You still get the flavor. But if you add them fresh, you get the potency, the antioxidants, all the amazing benefits added. And this is why with the Broth Lab, we add fresh only. There's no dried herbs, which obviously increases the potency but gives it its nice, delicious broth flavor because it's the first sippable broth, if you like. It's the first sippable broth in the region. It's not just for cooking. You can sip it in a mug as we do now. And the last but not least, and I think this is so important, sustainability, ethics, and motive. Beyond all that, why are you doing the broth? Why are you simmering? Why are you cooking? Is it just to have a viable, financially viable business, which is important, of course, to sustain and to be able to expand and continue what you're doing. But the messages and the ethos behind, it's so important. It's more important than the actual product. We are all made of energy. And if someone is cooking you a meal without the love and the care and the intention, without the intention, there's no point. So the intention behind the product was always for its healing benefits. And it's for by mothers like yourself, who understand that we need to work smarter, not harder, because we have 1,000 chores to do. And I understand that. And this is why I resonate with all the mothers out there, because I used to do the broth in the kitchen and I used to hate myself. I used to hate the smell. I used to hate the process. And it used to put me off, to be honest. I used to say my God, after doing it all, I just don't want to have it anymore. Like it's such a tedious process where you get that satisfaction in stocking your freezer, but you're exhausted. And by the time you run out, you're like, I'm not doing this over again. Like, you can pay me all you want. I'm not doing it. Deal with it, And I went out there and I tried to find a sustainable, clean source of bone broth because I obviously didn't want to cook it all the time. Again, working harder, not smarter. And there wasn't there any proper traditional 15-hour simmered potent, clean product out there that's made right. And even when many concepts came out after the Broth Lab, they were all made by chefs who had no nutrition background or understanding of what it takes to make this broth healing. They did it for flavor, obviously to sell, to stock in certain supermarkets. And, you know, we taste so good. We even taste better than the Broth Lab. And people say, yeah, but you know, you barely did an 8-hour count.
I'm yet to find that one, by the way. That
and
tastes
it's all
better.
filled of emulsifiers and preservatives.
And has butter in it sometimes.
Yeah.
It
And more
tastes like
seed oil. They roast it with seed oil.
I mean,
can you believe it? Like you're negating all the medicinal properties. So again, even our vegan shiitake broth, which is phenomenal, there's no oil inside. You know, mushrooms are such an amazing remedy. And I love the vegan umami broth because it's a powerhouse on its own. And even though I obviously vouch for the healing power of bone broth, which is rich in amino acid, arginine, L-glutamine, all the amazing benefits that you get from that, there is amazing medicinal properties to vegan broth. So you've got the fermented miso, which is a great source of probiotics and prebiotic for the gut. You have the iodine rich from the kelp and the kombu that's abundant in the vegan umami broth. But you have the medicinal immunity boosting properties from the shiitake. And it's high in plant protein for those who don't want to have the animal protein as a source of protein. And so when I talk about plant power, it's not about, you know, excluding that and just focusing on the bones, but also to appreciate the earth has given us so much, but we just need to have that wisdom to incorporate it in the right way and to make it in the right way. And that's why I love exploring with ancestral superfoods, because it's a never-ending quest to learn more and to get more of these amazing ingredients and making them something like genius and creating something that's super healing.
Mm-hmm.
What about what's the best time to have broth? For example, I do actually have it in the mornings.
Yeah.
It just in the mug, as you said.
Yes.
And I do it before food. Mm-hmm. But that was me just researching this kind of online or on ChatGPT actually. But then I just also like doing it because I need to eat as soon as I wake up. I feel hungry, so I do that first, and it kind of still fills you up, and it's, you know, it just makes me feel better, and I don't get as bloated in the mornings because sometimes I do, and it does help. But what's the best? Is it different for everyone, or there is like a way to do it? What's the best?
I love this question. So breakfast is breaking fast, right? So you want to break your fast with something that's nourishing to your body. You don't want to break your fast with coffee or a caffeine-rich beverage, because that's unfortunately the majority of what women, especially mothers, would run to, because they need that kick first start in the morning. So when you're sleeping, you're actually fasting. So your body's already in a fasting state. So you really need to make that conscious decision of what you're going to break your day. So any form of electrolytes when you wake up in the morning is so important. So whether it's a freshly squeezed half lemon into a pinch of salt, good quality salt, Celtic or Himalayan, into like water, having it to replenish all the dehydration that your body went through when you were sleeping. But then what you do next is so important. So important because that's what your body is going to absorb 100% and what your gut will assimilate instantly. So bone broth is incredible because we were talking about the minerals, how it's so high in minerals. We were talking about how it's so high in protein from all the amino acids. It has 0 carbs. There's absolutely no carbs. So those with insulin resistance or sensitivity, it really suits them. But most importantly, it has so many electrolytes. So unfortunately, water alone doesn't hydrate us. That's a reality. We're not going to dwell into it, but the source and the processing and how it reached your house is probably not the optimum way of having water. So even though you've had your hydration through water and the way you've infused it with electrolyte is great, you really need more electrolytes to sustain you throughout the day, especially in our region, especially that we're always indoors right now. In air condition, even though we're not sweating, we actually need more electrolytes. And if we're outside at the gym or sweating or in high temperature, we even need even more electrolytes. So a source of electrolytes in abundance is bone broth, and it's great to have it on an empty stomach. Now, I understand a lot of people say no, I'm not doing that. I'm not having bone broth on an empty stomach because they're not used to the idea, even though soup is delicious. You know, any time of the day, I can have it as a snack on an empty stomach before bed. But then before bed is a great alternative. So you've had your dinner, and instead of munching on something while you're watching TV or reading your book or listening to a podcast in the evening, having it before bed is great because it's so high in glycine and in proline. So both amino acids really put you to sleep and relax your muscles and give you a better REM sleep. So they're both great amino acids to have in the evening. But if you have it in the morning, then they're also great in terms of energy, calming, the Zen calm that we usually also can get from matcha. You get it through bone broth on an empty stomach.
Wow.
So timing is key. I would say when your gut is ready to absorb it in full. Now, of course, if you cook with it, it's even better. But if you really want to ensure that you're getting all these amazing nutrients, measure them in a cup and have them on an empty stomach, first thing in the morning as breakfast.
Mm-hmm. And I also know you have smoothies, for example,
Yes.
which are really great. And if you don't like the taste of bone broth, which some people don't like it, it's a great way to get in your bone broth. And you can even make it yourself. But I know that this is, one of the ways that maybe it's easier to give it to kids, for all these, new mothers or mothers with older kids that kind of refuse to, eat their vegetables and fruits. You can just put it in a smoothie.
Yeah.
How do you make that transition how do you help your kids' gut health along from an early age without it being too fussy, too difficult, and having them accept something like bone broth into their diet?
Oh my God, over the 12 years, I think I've hacked.
Right.
The mom hacked my way through motherhood, truly. Like the amount of white lies that I have done so my kids would have their... Oh my God, may they forgive me if they ever listen to this. But I have lied my way through what's in the bolognese sauce, what's in their smoothies, what's even in their sweet potato muffins. They have no idea. If they ever knew, they'll probably squash it and throw it. But it took time before me and the girls every morning would cheer into our bone broth mugs. It didn't get there overnight, And I understand how picky eating is frustrating for mothers and it's so difficult. But I also want to emphasize that there are so many easy ways to incorporate nutrient-dense meals without fussing too much around. And one of them is bone broth, obviously. So when I say adding it in sauces, like red sauce, you can easily add so much vegetables. And instead of watering down the sauce, which you want it anyways thick and rich and, with that jus, you can add bone broth. Smoothies is a great way. My own journey, I used to add all these protein powders. And even though they were clean protein powders into my shakes after working out, it made me think, like, I'm eating super clean. And then there's something that's bloating me, maybe not instantly, maybe the next day. And I can't figure out what. And it was all these hidden things that you would never usually understand on labels, even the cleanest of labels when it comes to powders, by the way. Mm-hmm. Because the way they're hydrolyzed or they're processed is not super clean. And the cross-contamination is huge. And those factories that supplying them are not, the cleanest, let's say, in terms of how they do what they do and how they package. So the moment I ditched them, my whole gut health transformed, whether it's protein or collagen powders or all these powders that I assumed I was doing my body a favor and I'm, ticking all the right boxes, they were actually doing me more harm than good. And I noticed I was one of those sensitive category people because many of my friends would not have these issues. And again, this is the bio-individualized approach, right? So I would include bone broth in my smoothies instead. And the fruits would anyways mask the taste. So even if those don't want to have the earthy taste from the bone broth into their smoothie, you barely taste it. If anything, you're going to taste the berries, you're going to taste the avocado inside. And so I started the same blender, having mine, because obviously this is when you can tell if something is clean, is something you'll give your child. Mm-hmm. And something that you would give your child regardless of their age. So not 2 months plus, not 6 months plus. This is where our whole ethos in the house changed. Whatever my mama can take, I can take. Whatever Baba is drinking, I can drink. And this applies to everything. So they grew up knowing And I grew with them. By the way, I learned so much, from those actions and those changes. I mirror myself with my kids. If they want to copy me, they need to copy me throughout. So I pour whatever was in the blender into their mugs, and it would be either a broth-infused smoothie. It would be either, a broth as it is. It would be whatever I'm cooking using the broth. And everything changed. Everything changed. I didn't care about how much protein I was getting with those, fanatics that are saying, are you getting your 30 grams? Are you getting your 40 grams? How much do you weigh? Are you getting... Why does it matter if I'm absorbing, even if I'm absorbing half that portion, but my body is nourished? That's all that matters. Let's stop putting ourselves into boxes and labels and numbers. Because I lived in that obsession when I was sick, and I don't want to go back there. Mm-hmm. It's not a great way to live. So moving on, I started incorporating in literally everything, obviously as a base of soup, adding it into rice, in their pasta, in their buckwheat, in their quinoa. And they started loving the food. So they went from being picky and what are you having? I'm not going to touch this, to, oh my God, I want more of this because the flavor was so delicious and dense. But also I created a free guide for mothers, a free guide that are available on brothlab.ae, where you just download it and it has multiple recipes that are suited for all age groups, but also great tips and hacks. It's like this big of a guide. But I created it really out of life experiences, out of things that are relevant to the UAE, because I know a lot of the recipes here are different and we're such a melting pot. I know people from Russia, people from the Levant are not going to have the same sort of recipe tweaks. So I made it as generic as possible, but also taking into account what's locally available. So you locally source the foods and the herbs that are here, and all broth infused in the simplest way. And when I say broth infused, it doesn't have to be a pouch into your meal. It could be as simple as a few tablespoons. Like that's all you need in the smoothie or in the sauce to really change the nutritional sort of value, but also to increase and incentivize and just increase those digestive enzymes that are great before the meal starts. Because if you ignite them through a shot of bone broth or through whatever you cooked in, you're increasing the digestion and the assimilation ability.
So you have another amazing company called Catcha Matcha. Please tell us about why Catcha Matcha is very different from other brands.
Oh my God, we need a podcast.
Right, I know.
For Catcha Matcha, yeah.
I know. I mean, besides the taste, obviously now after Catcha Matcha, I'm spoiled for life. Whenever I go to a random cafe and I see like the dark green and taste the bitterness, I'm like, oh no, I kind of cross that cafe out of my mind. But what makes a quality matcha? What should matcha taste and look like? And what makes your matcha from the Uji region, I believe, different?
I love Ancestral superfoods because they're abundant in a lot of healing properties, like I mentioned. That's why the Broth Lab is great. But Ancestral superfoods, when it comes to Asian countries like Japan or, Korea or even China, they have the matcha. But now particularly in Japan, because they've just excelled, even though it's originally Chinese from the emperor's time, it's now originated in Japan. And that ancestral superfood is so profound because even though now it's a hype, and unfortunately it's not the best of hypes, because as usual, what we humans are best at doing is depleting earth. And we've depleted all the sources of good matcha because of our consumerism. Sadly, but that's the reality of things. But what I really loved, I've been drinking matcha all my life, okay? All my life, all my adult life, because unfortunately I needed that sort of caffeine kick, and I'm not a big fan of coffee. So when I started 11, 12 years ago drinking matcha, I used to order through Shop and Ship. There wasn't clean sources of matcha. But obviously with knowledge that I gained, all the catechins, the tatins, the chlorophyll, the antioxidants, all these amazing terminologies that come with matcha, I learned more. And the best source of matcha is Japan, but the volcanic soils of Japan. So I did what I do best. I put on my boots and I went to Japan.
Of course you did.
Of course I did, you know. I wanted to see for myself, because if I'm not making it, I need to go and see how they're making it, because I want the best for myself. And somehow, from my own selfish reasons, everyone else benefits. But that's the beautiful, you know, empowerment that we do for one another. And you excel, you know, with beauty. You excel with your health tech. And, you know, I wanted to excel in F&B. And that was the motive for me. But I also was genuinely interested in seeing something that I love and enjoy every single day, how it's done, farm to cup. So I went to Uji Kyoto, which is the uphill, the highest volcanic soils in Uji. And I went and I met the 6th generation farmers. And oh my God, what a humbling, beautiful experience when the co-founder of the farm, 6th generation farm, the last of the samurai, you know, is with me in the car, taking me around the farm. And I kept mentioning, am I going to meet the founder? And he keeps knocking. Am I going to meet the, you know, the owner? And he keeps nodding. And I was like, what's wrong with this? Does he speak English? And so far we finished and he was like, this is me. Oh. And I was like, what a pleasure. What a humbling experience. You took me yourself. And he was like, it was so important because first of all, I'm proud, but we went through all the acres, seeing how the farmers work really hard from the break of dawn till the evening, harvesting the very small leaves, no branches, no big leaves, spring harvest. In May, that's when we went, in May all the way till the end of June, only to bring us the finest organic ceremonial ritual matcha that we just take for granted, put quickly without even whisking sometimes, or use a electric whisker, add in whatever we need to add and just go on the go, forgetting that it took months and years and a legacy of generations to bring it to us. So if I ever want to talk about Catcha matcha, yes, it's one of the best matchas in the world, I would say, because that's the origin from where I got it. But I can't but give the credit to these amazing farmers who work from dawn till night just to make it available and accessible and convenient for us. So I truly, truly, truly feel the vision and the mission of matcha is to just raise awareness. For us, sustainably, is to be very mindful about what we consume, because even though it's an amazing thing, we really need to respect it. And we haven't done a good job with that, and why we're seeing, you know, matcha depleting and there's not enough. It isn't that there isn't enough soils. There is enough farms and soils, but there isn't enough hands. There isn't enough farmers who can do, because it takes a long time for matcha to be harvested and grown and shaded. But also to just understand that quality matters. Quality forever will matter. Mm-hmm. And that's why I love that farm, and I love the ethos behind it, and I love the education part of it, and what they're trying to do. They said they're not, even though they're the best farm in Uji Kyoto, they're probably not the most financially viable farm. They're not doing so well because, again, if you really want to do well, you would use the farm throughout the year. You won't do a spring harvest, right? But they wanted to keep the best organic, sourced, fertile soil for what it's best at, which is matcha. Mm-hmm. So if you want to support the farmers, if you want to support the farm and the mission behind matcha, you should source it from ethically ground, sustainable farmers. That's the only way matcha will still be enjoyed till today. And that's why I advocate for Catcha matcha, is to support those farmers all the way.
Mm-hmm. I love that. We were just talking about this also with Borna on the last podcast, that making a quality product is expensive.
Very expensive.
So that goes from the farm that makes the ingredient, you know, to the packaging, everything around it is expensive.
But we push the demand. So the supply will be cheaper if we keep pushing the demand.
Yeah, very true. And I also think that bone broth and matcha are the secrets to your glow. Oh. Because I swear, whether it's in person or whether it's on any type of, you know, appearance, I've seen you on Instagram or TV or Shark Tank, your skin is always glowing, and really with that inside out glow. It's
Thank you.
Amazing.
I say the same about you, Bilyana. I take all your tips and hacks.
Thank you, Hadil. That means a lot.
So I just wanted to ask, what would be, after all of your experience, after all of your education and knowledge and personal experience, of course, what would be your first advice that you give people that struggle with gut health? Would it be nutrition? Would it be sleep? What would it be in your personal experience and knowledge?
That's a good question. We started our conversation with a holistic approach, right? But the foundation of all of our existence is through food. So you really need to get the food right, first and foremost. There's no way you will say, you know what, I'm going to sleep better, wake up, eat rubbish, go back to sleep, and I'm sure I'm getting my even 9 hours of sleep. That's not going to move the needle. But again, also going to the gym, incorporating more movement, sweating, detoxifying. If you're not eating the right food, you can't. It'll go back. It's going to be a vicious cycle. So if you get your foundation right, I would say go for nutrition. Make sure that whatever you're eating or eliminating is right for your journey through gut health. Because gut health is difficult to tackle in the beginning until you understand the root cause and what works for you. And what works for you, nobody has the answers for except you. So there's a lot of exploring. And unfortunately, it's the way we look at health has been that, you know what, I've tackled this, I'm never going to get sick again, my gut is going to be optimum. No, health is not linear, you know. You're going to go through ups and downs until you really get to manage it right. But the foundation is nutrition.
Mm-hmm. And you have to manage it forever. It's not
Forever.
a one-time thing. It's
a
just
consistency. Yes.
consistency, and you build upon, the things that you know, and you keep rediscover, and your health changes. I mean, with age, things change as well.
Yeah, I'm in perimenopause stage now. So the way I look at nutrition is very different. You know, how I feed. When we were in our 20s, we were feeding our energy, right? We needed more energy. But when we are in this next chapter, we're looking at bone density, resilience, and hormonal balance. Very different things. And how we eat needs to cater to those rather than just energy. Actually, catering just to feed ourselves for energy is the worst thing we could do during this phase, you know? So yeah, absolutely, Biljana.
I'm glad you bring this up, because I feel like the wellness industry forgets about a lot of people. How does your mission address these groups? And also, what are you trying to achieve on a larger scale, kind of beyond, the different products that you have in the UAE or the region? What is your bigger mission?
His Highness Sheikh Mohammed Al Nahyan has just announced this November that the year 2026 is going to be the year of the family. And I love that, because the core essence of why I created what I created was, first of all, to be able to take care of my family. Because to be better, I'm not gonna be able to pour from an empty cup, right? I wanted to take care of my child who was so young, and I felt like I was also a burden of my family. You know how it is when you feel, even if you have just a cold, you feel like, oh my God, now everyone has to look after me. I can't look after myself, and you feel that sense of guilt. So the whole essence of why I started this was for others, but it was mainly to help my family, which is others. Right? And then from there, I wanted to obviously be available in a convenient way for other families, for other mothers, for other parents to look after themselves, to be able to look after their families. So that's the ripple effect. And that's what I feel the community has been pushing, the collective, the family, looking after families, for families, right? And if you think about it, the products were by ancestors, our ancestors who were families. So the core is to just bring back those, the ethos of the family, what really pulls us and sometimes pull us apart, but brings us back together is the family. And that's the collective I want to build. I want to be able to build a community that feels like a family. That's my ultimate aim, because when I started, like I said, it was so difficult for me to penetrate the market because it was so competitive. And I'm so glad that I've reached a position where, no, the competition is still fierce, but there is a sense of belonging and community. And I hope that would just emphasize and grow with time.
Have you realized everyone who we invite to the podcast have the bigger mission is all the same.
Yeah.
I think that's why also the networking is so easy, and every guest that comes,
They're all good people.
Yeah. I think that's the key to the whole thing. And of course, we all have different products, but the culture and the values are the same, and that's what it makes it so much easier to communicate. And also, we're creating something for each other as well. Like, I'm always excited to try your products because I know whatever comes next would be great, And Biljana, the same thing. Like, I know that whatever she creates next will be as clean and as easy to use and as good quality as her
100%.
previous product. And that's that trusting as well. It goes into it, and that's why it's very exciting to be in the industry and to experience all of these things.
I'm going to break it to the Wellness Club social. I'm going to launch a beef and a lamb grass-fed tallow
Oh my God.
by the Broth Lab.
Oh my
to
God.
cook, and phenomenal quality.
Goodbye seed oils.
Oh, bye a thousand
Long gone.
times. But then all the minerals we're talking about in abundance in just 1 teaspoon, not even a tablespoon. And you can saute your okra, your green beans, your beans, anything you cook with. Or also just instead of butter on top of your steak, some beef tallow is phenomenal.
I love it.
So I'm so excited because I'm a hardcore fan of, so it's for selfish reasons, but then everybody else benefits as well.
No, thank you.
I was researching it, and everything I found was like LA, California. It's all there, and I'm like, well, that's a bit far for me
Exactly.
to
Exactly.
But it is amazing. It's an amazing product, and I wish people knew more about it as well.
I'm excited for it to drop.
We're
So
very excited. Please consider us the guinea pigs for the
I'm
beef
definitely
tallow.
gonna send you the boxes before it drops, so you can tell me your constructive feedback.
So I'm
Please.
so
It
excited.
will be like yum. Yes, that will be the constructive feedback.
I fly tomorrow to Shivastam. I'm taking a group of women entrepreneurs and women investors to the retreat for a gut reset retreat there. I've curated a beautiful thing with Shivasam. It's one of the top 5 wellness resorts in the world. But I'm going there because I went actually with my partner, with my husband, earlier in April this year, and we fell in love. Everything from the gurus to the wellness coaches to the meditation to just the top-notch, obviously, massages in Thailand, our lymphatic drainage and all of that. And it's phenomenal, When they asked us as checkout, would you come back again? This is exactly what I told them. I told them I'm going to come back for sure, but not alone. I can't go through all this alone. I feel like it's selfish. Like, I'm going to tell all my friends, I'm going to tell my community that this thing exists. Because this is, again, these hidden gems, they really rarely market themselves. It's a word of mouth. It's the loyal community that always goes there regularly to check in. Actually, I was talking to a guy there, and he's been going for the past 18 years every single year.
Oh, wow.
Oh, lucky him.
I asked him, and I was like, no wonder why the whole staff are like always around you and they're high-fiving you. It seems like they know you. And they're like, yeah, I've been coming here because I realized nothing else matters if my health is not there.
Yeah.
Amen.
And this is the top facility. So it was my first time and obviously his 18th time. And I was just asking him, and he was telling me about just, again, the founder, the ex-minister of Thailand who opened up, why he did it, and the whole ethos and the whole energy behind the place. And so I came back and I emailed the people from Shivasam, and I told them, listen, I'm going to tell my community, you have to give them the best thing ever. We're so spoiled here in Dubai.
Yeah.
Okay? We're so spoiled. And I want to make sure that they feel like that this is different. I don't want you to offer whatever anyone would book separately. They need to know that they're going on a group retreat with me and they're getting so much more. So we created something amazing. And with the meal plan, with the gut research and the program that we have in place. And I'm so happy that 12 women are joining me onto this, because in the beginning I thought, you know what? It's great if I go again and a few join me, but now that we've created this group and we're all excited, this is the sense of community. This will forever be the purpose. Again, I'm not trying to sell a product. I'm not an affiliate. I'm not trying to, sell you a service. It's not like that. It's about creating that tribe that will forever push one another to be the best versions of ourselves without it being cliche. Whether one is going there because she's completely wrecked mentally with all the struggles of being a mom entrepreneur, or being just, juggling several businesses, or someone who cannot disconnect, or someone who doesn't want to feel like she's doing a retreat alone, or someone who wants to network, bond, and heal at the same time. Because you can do all those three together when you're in a group. So super excited for tomorrow.
I love that, Hadil. I'm excited for you. And I can't wait for you to come back and tell us all about the retreat, and also next time to go with you.
Yes, hopefully.
Because I'm sure it won't be the last one,
No.
for the community.
Hopefully it'll be a regular thing. But again, that's what you get when you create a bigger vision than just your business. Mm-hmm. It becomes bigger than you, bigger than life. And you could do so many things from creating a community that goes beyond just the product or the service, And this is what you both are creating with your businesses. You're talking and you're advocating. You're more than just a platform. You are a trust system. You are that big sister, I want to go for advice. That's why you're creating with Soul Crave, that I can go to a place that have ethics, that is honest, that is giving me all those hours of research in 1 second type, That's what you've created, and that trust is not easy. And that's why we're grateful for people like you. And Biljana, oh my God, I know your story from, like you said, from you were just a client, and how far you've become, but how you stood your ground even when people turned you away, because you truly believe that your ingredients matter, and that people are in that sense of awakening and will always come back to what truly works and what's sustainable. And here you are today. So
thank you, Hadil.
Thank you
I'm
so
so
much.
grateful for
so
both
much.
of you.
It means so much, and that makes me really, really excited even more, because Hadil and I have been talking about creating a product together for a long time, and I am the reason it's been delayed, but it will come. Our Matcha antioxidant face mask, hopefully soon. But I wanted to ask you kind of touched upon it a little bit, about the future of wellness.
Yes.
And where you think wellness will go, let's say in the next 5 to 10 years. What are you excited about? Whether that's nutrition or, any type of healing rituals, or anything that, people will get into and you think is the right direction.
Yeah, like I said, I feel like health is backwards, but not in the bad sense. Like we are going back again to our ancestors, our DNA, our origin, things that growing up as teenagers we were trying to repel. Like, I don't want to be associated with those weirdos. Give me a hug. Those weirdos are my family. They're my DNA. I love them so much. They're who I am now, So we're seeing that shift with mindful eating, fermentation, culturing, obviously a long simmer, then all these products that we're seeing today all go back to those ancestral way of living and rituals. So I'm seeing more and more, and all the biohacking, if you think about it, the sweating, the endurance, all of these are going back to the way our ancestors used to do and
back to
live.
basics.
Back to basics,
yeah.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So health is going back to basics, but we're also, I'm seeing an awakening where people are decluttering. We went through a hype, if you recall, of like a zillion things that we need to do. And every time I talk about this, I remember this woman that had a baby strapped and had like a silk bonnet and was carrying coconut oil and was carrying her matcha and then running, trying to juggle life, like a zillion things that we're asked to do on a daily basis. Like, oh my God, like between the supplementation and what we cook and what we eat and what we need to avoid and how we need to discipline, it's overwhelming. So I feel like this is all clutter. And a lot of people are taking the easier slowing down approach, but not slowing down where people are progressing and you're just there thinking, oh no, I'm slowing down, because before you know it, you're not productive and you're probably not going far in life. But slowing down in the sense of understanding your limit. What's my limit? My limit is that I can't do all these supplements regardless what the tests and what I should be doing. My limit is that I'm not going to be able to do all of that for my child, and that's okay. Being able to live guilt-free is the way health is, being more intuitive. We love functional and holistic medicine because it's the only basically approach towards our mental health. What other school of thought would tell you that you need to connect both? No one, except those. So why aren't we honoring that mentally? So the health is understanding that each of one of us has a different mental capacity of what they can take when it comes to them living healthily. And I think that is the way the future is going to be.
Thank you so much for being here today. And I learned so much personally, and I can relate to your experience and to your mission and to everything that we've been talking about today. So for me, it was a very valuable hour of your time. Thank you so much for being here. And we appreciate you so much. We appreciate your product. And now we fully understand what goes behind it, if it's Matcha or if it's, the Broth Lab, and what actually makes it a great product. And I think it would be useful to all the listeners and to learn about your values and more about you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, ladies.
Thank
Truly,
you.
I enjoyed it very much. I didn't want it to end.
Us neither. We can do this for hours. And for everyone listening, if you would like to learn more about Hadil's work, you can find the amazing Broth Lab bone broths on soulcrave.com. And you can find Catcha Matcha in so many outlets throughout the UAE, including the best cafes. And you can get some daily inspiration for your health on Instagram at Heal with Hadil. This has been the Wellness Club Social episode 5. Please don't forget to subscribe, to share, and DM us with any questions you may have or any guests you would like to see on future episodes. And please join us next time when we'll be joined by our special guest, Lila Dokci. She's the founder of Me Kombucha, which is the first ever Emirates-made kombucha brand. So we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening.